Hello everyone. Hope everyone is doing well in the times of the pandemic. Today, we are going to talk about a piece of legislation which has been brought about by the Tamil Nadu government. And it is important to note that this particular act has come into force from 22nd of February 2019 onwards, and the act is called Tamil Nadu Regulation of Rights and Responsibilities of Landlord and Tenants Act 2017. It came into force on 22nd of February 2019. Many of them are today currently not aware of the same, but there are important provisions which are very urgently need to be taken care of, and that is what is will be told in this particular video of mine. Well, this particular act doesn't differentiate the tenancy between a commercial complex, commercial property, or a residential property. Both has to be registered with the rent authority, and the rent authority will take cognizance of the same. The registration of the written agreements is important. No more oral agreements shall be accepted. All the written agreements has to be mandatorily filed with the rent authority. Well, what is other aspects of it which are important for us to be noted? Some of the important aspects for us to be noted is that the period of tenancy does not determine whether a registration has to be done or not. Irrespective of whatever the periods may be, today as it stands, the registration of the agreements is mandatory. There is no escape from the same. If you wish to use this as a means of a recourse in the eyes of law, the registration has to be done. Only then it will have an evidentiary value. Now, coming on with respect to other aspects, if you have entered into an agreement post the 22nd of February with your landlord, and thereby this particular agreement has to be registered within 90 days of the same. If the agreement pertains to some date which is prior to the 22nd of February, then as per the Act, what has been given and subsequently the dates which have been notified by the state government has to be taken into the cognizance, and those agreements also has to be registered with the rent authority. Now, coming on to the other aspects, whether subletting is allowed. Yes, now the subletting is allowed provided you have the permission from the landlord to do the same, and such particular subletting agreement also has to be registered with the rent authority. Now, in this particular act, save as otherwise provided contrary into the agreement, 3 months, maximum of 3 months, shall be provided as means of a security deposit. That is to say, if you have anything contrary in the agreement, then it is acceptable. Otherwise, maximum 3 months of security deposit can be accepted in the normal course of tenancies. Other than that, it is important to note other points as well. Many of them have this particular doubt that they have already registered their agreement under the Registration Act of 1908. Whether a registration under this new particular tenancy act is mandatory for those registrations as well, which has been already done under the Registration Act. Yes, it is mandatory that you register this particular agreement with the rent authority. The registration under the Registration Act is separate, and the registration as per the new Tenancy Act, which has been brought about, is separate. Well, it has technically repealed the old law. The old law was Tamil Nadu Buildings Lease and Rent Control Act 1960. The new act is the one which I am talking about. Well, it is otherwise also important to note whether leave and license or license agreement would come under this particular act. Irrespective of the title which has been given to the agreement, it is important to note that the sum and substance of the agreement will be taken recourse to whether it has devolved any form of rights in the immovable property, and on the basis of which the registration shall be made mandatory. The title is not important, but the agreement, what it contemplates, whether it contemplates any form of rights, then the said particular agreement has to be registered with the rent authority. And otherwise also, there are other things which are made important and mandatory. such as whether renewal of the tenancy requires fresh registration. Yes, under the new act, the registration, the new renewal has to be registered as well. Secondly, other thing is whether the expiry or termination of the tenancy agreement has to be reported to the rent authority. Yes, it has to be reported, and the same has to be reported within 15 days of such particular event happening. And thereby, this is also an important aspect which has been brought about. Further, if any of your tenants does not pay a particular rent for a period of 2 months, a month's notice needs to be given by you if you wish to evict him. During the times of this pandemic, this also becomes one of an important clause to be made aware of. Thereby, this particular act which has been brought about by the Tamil Nadu government has been primarily brought about to give the freedom to the landlord as well as the tenant to have their different forms of agreements, and the agreements has been given a lot of impetus with respect to how it will function. And further, the registrations being made mandatory is also an important aspect to note, because most of the people are not aware of the same, and this particular aspect of registration helps them tomorrow to take recourse under the course of law as well. Thank you. Have a nice day.